Life has a funny way of teaching you lessons, sometimes in the most painful ways. At 29, I thought I had everything figured out. I had the perfect job, a beautiful apartment, and most importantly, I had Ryan, my fiancé. The man I was going to spend the rest of my life with. We had been together for over 3 years, and in those years, I had come to believe that our love was untouchable. He was my best friend, my confidant, and the one person I trusted with all my heart. Ryan wasn't just someone I loved, he was someone I believed in. He wasn't perfect, but he had a way of making me feel like I was. He had a gentle soul, a quick wit, and a smile that could make everything feel right. We made plans together, talked about our future, and dreamed of our wedding day. I honestly thought that nothing could ever come between us. But I was wrong. It all started innocently enough. I remember when I first introduced Sophie to Ryan. Sophie had been my best friend for 10 years. We met in college, both of us struggling to balance school and life, and we immediately clicked. She was the loud, outgoing one, always full of energy and making people laugh. I was quieter, more introspective, but we balanced each other perfectly. Over the years, she had become more than just a friend, she was like a sister to me. Sophie and Ryan got along well the first time they met. They were both easygoing and shared a love for adventure. There was no reason for me to be concerned. They started hanging out together more often, grabbing lunch or going on hikes. I trusted Sophie completely, and I trusted Ryan, too. So when I saw them chatting one evening, I thought nothing of it. It seemed harmless, even normal. But that's when the first cracks began to show. At first, it was small things, little comments Sophie would make when Ryan wasn't around. Comments that made me feel like maybe she had a deeper connection with him than I'd realized. "Ryan's so funny, I could hang out with him all day," she'd say. Or, "He's such a great guy, you're lucky to have him." I didn't think much of it. But the more time passed, the more these remarks began to unsettle me. Still, I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was just overthinking things. Then came the late-night texts. I would catch Ryan looking at his phone, glancing at it quickly before hiding it away. The same thing happened with Sophie, texting and calling each other more frequently. At first, I assumed they were just friends. But then, one night, I happened to glance over Ryan's shoulder as he was texting, and I saw Sophie's name pop up on the screen. That night, something inside me shifted. A cold feeling settled deep in my chest, but I pushed it aside. I had no reason to be suspicious. They were both my friends, and I loved them both. Surely I was just imagining things. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The trust one had in them was starting to fray, and I couldn't explain why. And then, everything came crashing down. It was a typical Sunday. Ryan and I had planned a quiet day at home, just the two of us, relaxing and watching movies. He went to take a shower while I prepared dinner. As I moved around the kitchen, I heard his phone ring from the other room. It rang again and again. It was strange, he never left his phone alone when we were home together. I decided to go check, telling myself it was probably a work message or something trivial. When I picked up the phone, my heart dropped. There, on the screen, was Sophie's name. And the message that followed was even worse. "I'm late. I think I'm pregnant. What are we going to do?" For a moment, I froze. The words blurred together as my mind tried to make sense of what I was reading. Pregnant? Sophie? My best friend? And Ryan? It didn't make sense. My hand started to shake as I reread the message. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was right in front of me. I felt sick to my stomach, as if the world was collapsing around me. I dropped the phone, my body trembling. I couldn't breathe. I heard Ryan's footsteps approaching the room, but I didn't know what to do. What could I say? How could I look at him after this? When he walked into the room, his face softened as he saw my expression. "Emily? What's wrong?" His voice was full of concern, but it was too late for that. I couldn't speak. I didn't trust myself to say anything without completely breaking down. The tears started to fall before I could stop them. My mind was racing, but all I could focus on was the hurt. How could he do this to me? How could Sophie do this to me? Ryan stepped closer, reaching for me, but I pulled away. I couldn't bear his touch. I didn't know if I was angry at him, at Sophie, or at myself for not seeing it sooner. I can't do this, I whispered through my tears. The pain in my chest was unbearable. I felt like my world was falling apart, and I had no idea how to put it back together. Ryan tried to hold me, but I couldn't let him. I didn't want his comfort, not now. I couldn't even look at him. The betrayal was too fresh, too raw. I'm sorry, Emily. I never meant for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you, he pleaded. But his words fell flat. They didn't matter now. Nothing mattered except the fact that the man I loved had broken my heart. Without saying another word, I grabbed my things and left. I didn't care where I was going, I just needed to get away from him, from everything. My best friend had betrayed me. The man I thought I would marry had betrayed me. I felt like I was suffocating. For the next few days, I shut myself off from the world. I couldn't face anyone, especially not Sophie. I couldn't bring myself to confront her. The anger I felt toward her was overwhelming. How could she do this to me? How could she betray our friendship like this? I couldn't understand why she would do something so cruel. But the silence between Ryan and me was deafening. He called me, sent messages, but I ignored them all. I couldn't face him. I couldn't hear his apologies, his explanations. I needed time to think, to breathe. I stayed with my parents for a few days. Their house was a refuge, a place where I could just exist without having to deal with the pain. I stayed in my childhood bedroom, curled up in bed, questioning everything. How had I missed the signs? How could I have trusted both of them so completely? But as the days passed, something inside me started to change. The anger, the hurt, it was still there, but there was something else too. A small voice in my head that kept asking, what happened? Why did this happen? I knew I needed answers. I couldn't let this go without understanding the truth. The days that followed my discovery were some of the longest of my life. The pain I felt in my chest was almost physical, like a weight I couldn't shake off. I stayed with my parents for a while, trying to put some space between myself and everything that had happened. I couldn't even bring myself to talk about it with anyone. The betrayal was so deep, I wasn't sure who I was more angry at, Ryan, for breaking my trust, or Sophie, for manipulating everything that was once pure. But, deep inside, I knew I couldn't stay like this forever. I had to find out the truth. I had to understand why this had happened. It wasn't just about forgiving Ryan anymore, it was about understanding what led him down this dark path. I kept replaying everything in my mind, trying to find a clue, a sign I might have missed. My thoughts kept returning to Sophie. We had been best friends for years. She knew me better than anyone, and I knew her. What had changed? What had driven her to do this to me? Why would she betray me like this? One afternoon, after much internal turmoil, I decided to confront Ryan. I needed to hear his side of the story. I needed to know if he truly understood the magnitude of what he had done. And most importantly, I needed to know if he was truly remorseful. Ryan agreed to meet me at a coffee shop downtown. I didn't know what to expect, but I was determined to face him. When I arrived, I spotted him sitting at a table near the window, his head lowered, staring into his coffee. His usual warm smile was gone, replaced by a look of exhaustion. He looked like a man who had been carrying the world on his shoulders, and maybe, in a way, he had. As I sat down, he didn't look up right away. There was a long pause before he finally met my eyes, and when he did, the sadness in his gaze was almost too much to bear. Emily, he started, his voice barely above a whisper, I am so sorry. I don't even know where to begin. What I did, it was a mistake. A terrible mistake. I stared at him, my emotions still raw. A mistake? I repeated, my voice trembling with anger. You think what you did was just a mistake? You think you can just call it that and everything will be okay? Ryan's face tightened with regret. No. It's not that simple. But yes, it was a mistake, and I own it. I never meant for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you, Emily. I love you, and I am so sorry that I betrayed your trust. I shook my head, not sure what to believe. How could you do this? How could you betray me with Sophie? She was my best friend, Ryan. She was like family to me. Ryan looked down at his coffee, his hands gripping the mug as if he were trying to hold on to something steady. I know. And that's what makes this even worse. I never intended to hurt you, but I was weak. Sophie came to me when I was going through a tough time. She knew how to get close to me, how to make me feel better when I was down. But I didn't know what she was really doing. I didn't know what she was planning. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. There was more to this than I had realized. What do you mean by that? I asked, my voice quiet but insistent. Ryan hesitated, clearly struggling with the words. Sophie. She wasn't pregnant with my child, Emily. She wasn't. She lied to me. She tricked me into thinking I had gotten her pregnant. She drugged my drink at a party one night. She made me feel tipsy, and I wasn't thinking clearly. She seduced me, and I thought it was just a moment of weakness on my part. But it wasn't just that. It was a trap. She wanted to frame me, to make you believe I had done something unforgivable. I sat there, stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So you're telling me that Sophie was never pregnant with your child? I asked, barely able to process the words. No, Ryan said, his voice breaking. She wasn't. She was pregnant, but it wasn't mine. She was trying to get back at you for something I don't fully understand. She thought that if she could destroy our relationship, she'd somehow get to me. But it wasn't about me at all. It was about her trying to manipulate everything. She knew I would never forgive myself if I thought I had hurt you like that. So she used that against me. I sat there in shock. The pieces were slowly falling into place. I had spent days blaming myself, questioning everything I knew about Ryan and Sophie. But now, I was learning that the truth was far more complicated. It wasn't just a betrayal from Ryan, it was manipulation, lies, and deceit from someone I thought I knew better than anyone. But why? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Why would she do this? Ryan shook his head, looking lost. I don't know. I'm so sorry, Emily. I never wanted any of this. But I promise you, I never meant to hurt you. I never wanted to betray your trust. And when I found out the truth, when I realized what had really happened, it shattered me. I've been trying to figure out how to make it right, how to prove to you that I love you and that I never wanted any of this. I could see the pain in his eyes. I could hear the sincerity in his voice. He was broken, and I could feel it. But the question that lingered in my mind was whether I could ever forgive him. Could I ever trust him again after everything that had happened? In the days that followed, I took time to reflect. The anger, the heartbreak, the betrayal, it was still there, simmering beneath the surface. But I also began to realize that the truth was not as simple as I had thought. Ryan hadn't been the villain I imagined him to be. Sophie, on the other hand, had been the one pulling the strings. She had betrayed both of us, and the only one who truly needed healing was me. I called Ryan one night, after I had spent hours wrestling with my emotions. I've thought a lot about what you said, I began. And I'm not going to lie, it's hard. It's hard to trust you again, to even look at you the same way. I know, Ryan replied, his voice soft but steady. I understand, Emily. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just need you to know that I am so sorry, and that I will spend the rest of my life trying to make things right. I took a deep breath. I can't promise you that I'll forgive you tomorrow or even next week. but I want to try. I want to see if we can rebuild what we had. Because I love you, Ryan. And I believe that love is worth fighting for." In the weeks that followed, Ryan and I worked through our pain, step by step. I couldn't pretend it was easy. There were still moments when I would feel that familiar pang of hurt, when I'd remember the betrayal and wonder if it would always haunt me. But we worked through it together, Ryan showing me, through his actions, that he was committed to regaining my trust. He apologized again and again, but more than that, he demonstrated his love and dedication in every little thing he did. And then, one evening, after a quiet dinner at home, Ryan looked at me with the same loving gaze that had always made my heart flutter. "Emily, I know I don't deserve it, but will you marry me? Will you give me the chance to prove that I can be the man you deserve?" Through my tears, I smiled. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, Ryan. I'll marry you." A few months later, we were married in a small ceremony with close friends and family. It wasn't the fairy tale wedding I had once imagined, but it was real. It was ours. And it was filled with love and hope for the future. And as we stood there, exchanging vows, I realized something profound. Forgiveness wasn't just about letting go of the past. It was about choosing love over bitterness, healing over hurt, and moving forward together. We had our share of struggles, but with every challenge, we grew stronger. And a year later, we welcomed our twin children into the world, two beautiful little souls that made everything we had fought for worthwhile. Ryan and I built our life from the ground up, brick by brick, trust by trust. And though the scars from the past would always be there, they were no longer the ones that defined us. The love we shared, the love that had survived betrayal, was what defined us now. And it was stronger than ever. I want to thank all my viewers and listeners for their likes and comments. Please do well to share to friends and family so it can encourage me more to drop more interesting stories of mine and to be honest all through my stories.